Hello and welcome to another episode of Attacking Third, a CBS Sports soccer podcast. I'm Sandra Herrera, lead NWSL writer for CBS Sports. Joined today, as always, by my colleague and co-host Lisa Roman, broadcaster and analyst for CBS Sports. On today's segment, we've got a supersized preview episode for everyone. We're going to do a preview of the NWSL Challenge Cup Final, and we are going to head into regular season preview for you all. Before we get into everything, a quick reminder to follow us on Twitter for all news and updates at Attacking Third. We also have a TikTok and an Instagram now, so follow us across all three platforms at Attacking Third for highlights, cool graphics, breaking news, and so much more. We're also available as video. Subscribe to us at youtube.com/Attacking Third so you don't miss out on a single thing. Lisa, like that supersized preview episode.
I like the supersized preview, but that's what we've got because it's super duper crossover weekend in the NWSL with Challenge Cup Final and second week of the regular season. So there was some games moved around, but we're recording this on Thursday, which is when we usually record our previews. And off mic, Sandra, you and I were just talking about how we were jazzed last night after the Challenge Cup semifinal, and it took me a while to fall asleep. And the fact that we get to watch this again, the Challenge Cup again in a final, is exciting. And it's just 2 days away, which is even more exciting. And we have regular season games. It's a lot. There's a lot going on, and we get to preview it all. We tried to mash it all together in a very organized way. So it is a supersized preview.
We're gonna break it down into a couple parts there. At the top of the episode here, we're gonna be chatting Challenge Cup Final, and then towards the latter end of the episode, we'll be chatting about regular season matches that are on the horizon. But we had to do this together because some of this stuff overlaps, and there's one thing that impacts the other, right? So we do know that the Challenge Cup kicked off the calendar year for NWSL competition. For folks who are looking to catch up on everything, matches are on Paramount Plus. You can get highlights, extended highlights of games that you might have missed over at Attacking Third's YouTube channel. But it's all building up to this day, the Challenge Cup Final on May 7th. It's going to be Washington Spirit versus North Carolina Courage. The East meet again. Lisa, we've got the two teams who went 1-2 essentially in the East region, gonna battle it out for the Challenge Cup. For folks who are just joining us for the first time or maybe are unfamiliar with Challenge Cup a little bit, this year's edition, the third edition of Challenge Cup, featured 12 clubs broken down over three regions. You had the East, West, and Central regions battling it out in group stage play for spots of the Final Four and the semifinals. And now we've got two finalists in the Challenge Cup, and it's all coming back to the East. It's got Spirit, got Courage. The game is going to take place number 3 versus number 4. It's going to be playing at North Carolina Wake Med Soccer Park in Cary, North Carolina. Courage, the hosts in this one. Let's talk a little bit about these two teams, maybe their history in the Challenge Cup specifically so far. We've got these two teams that played out to 2-2 draws against each other, Lisa. So it's almost like
2-2 draws.
2-2 draws. That's what it broke down to. But not for lack of impressive play, I think, on either side of the pitch. I enjoyed when these two teams went head to head in their group stage, and now they're going to be duking it out for a chance to lift the cup. And so there's already a bit of familiarity there for both of these teams as they prepare to take the pitch.
I think we have to look back at the history between these two sides that started the last Challenge Cup weekend in March. So it's really just over a month. These teams will face each other 3 times in Challenge Cup play. And to reflect on how the Challenge Cup semifinals happened, and it was the top team in each region plus the number 2 overall team, which happened to be Washington Spirit. And the fact that this each region now are 2 of the 4 teams have made it to the Challenge Cup final says a lot about the competition in that East region. It was North Carolina, Gotham, Washington, and Orlando Pride. So many people talked about how the West region was really tough with OL Reign, Portland, San Diego, and Angel City. And it's not to say that that wasn't tough either, but when you have 2 of 4 teams from the East making it to the final, I think it's tough competition in the East region. But these two sides, the first time they met March 30th, it was a 2-2 draw. Washington actually went down 2-0 early in the first half half. I think it was 26 minutes when Dabinia had the opening goal, and then Taylor Smith notched the second one for North Carolina. But Rodman and Hatch able to get back equalizers in the second half. Washington ended up outshooting North Carolina in that game, specifically in the second half, 20-5 in that match. But shots on target, 5 for Washington Spirit and 4 for North Carolina. So 4 of North Carolina's 5 shots were on target. Washington was just shooting at what they could. But remember, Washington Spirit started this Challenge Cup a little slow, not on even ground, not on sure footing. And as they grew into themselves and into the Challenge Cup, they just got progressively better. The second time these two teams met, April 23rd, again, a 2-2 draw at the end of it. Dabinia nets another one. Mary Barkley got a goal as well. And Ashley Hatch scored a brace, one of those being a penalty kick that was called at the end of the game in the 75th minute. So Hatch scored the opener and then bookended the game of goals, getting the penalty kick in the 75th minute. But North Carolina and Washington, they both have 12 goals for throughout this Challenge Cup. So each team is averaging 2 goals a game. And that's a pretty impressive stat too, because they score a lot of goals and they have a lot of open run of play throughout the games. I'm excited to watch this one a third time, but I really did want to look back at the first 2 times they met, because it sets the scene for what is to come in the Challenge Cup final.
I think so too. Honestly, I'm keeping my eyes more on the more recent of the 2 matches that they played each other, right? Because I think that one settles it's most fresh in your mind. Sort of rounded out Challenge Cup group play for these 2 teams, and just sort of looking at them between the first half into the second half for either of these teams. You had, I don't know if I would call this game end to end. It sort of had that energy at first. You had, Hatch getting on the board for the Spirit very early on in the 15 minutes, and then the Courage kind of chasing things a little bit, and being the home team in this one as well. But seeing the debut start for Caroline and the Courage, I think people were really, really excited about that. And this was a performance that delivered essentially by this player, winning a penalty and then having, Dabinia go ahead and convert that and kind of level things up. I liked the tempo of that game. I thought it was very exciting. It was a match that I think a lot of people had their eyes on because of the accessibility to it on the broadcast, and I thought it was a thrilling game. I think between these 2 sides, and my hope is we see something similar in this. Now, I don't know if it's going to, get to the point where we're going to see some end-to-end action again, and that maybe we're going to see a regulation, tied up and have to go to penalties. I don't know if my my heart could take that, Lisa.
I know.
If we have a Challenge Cup final determined on penalties, but it wouldn't be the first time. The 2021 Challenge Cup champions, Portland Thorns, they went all the way to penalties against Gotham FC in last year's Challenge Cup, and I'm not too sure. Maybe there's something written between these 2 teams already. Maybe there's already enough foreshadowing here a little bit to maybe make the assumption that there is a strong possibility that these 2 teams can go to the fullest extent of high drama on a big stage and go to penalties, just because of these 2 matches prior having 2-2 score lines and playing out to draws here. And we know with Challenge Cup, you go directly to penalty kicks. There's no extra time there to try to play some things out. It's just end of regulation, you're going to penalties. So I'm a little bit curious as to sort of, how that's going to shake out and what that's going to look like. And I'm also a little bit curious if maybe there's enough footage here or enough familiarity where we might see either team come out and maybe make a tweak or an adjustment here or there. I know in the previews that you and I did leading up to the Challenge Cup semifinals, something that we talked a little bit about was the fact that there was, a regular season overlap with these games, that something like player rotation was going to come into play. It's going to depend on personnel for both sides of the picture, who is available, what are there certain types of minute restrictions. And I'm not saying that that's completely out the window, because this is the final, and it's just you put everything you have into it no matter what. But I have to imagine there's still going to be perhaps a little bit of that going into this match, because you've got two teams now that are coming off of a ton of games in the span of 7 to 8 or 9 days here. So when we're looking at these two teams, Lisa, in terms of the outcome in this one, we got to talk about making picks. Okay,
Yeah.
we got to talk about making picks, and we got to talk about I think we should, yes, make our picks, but we should absolutely make arguments for either side here. I think both of them, I think, deserve that in terms of the Challenge Cup that they put on in front of us. So in terms of making a pick for who's coming out on top, who's lifting the cup in this one, who are you picking and why?
Sandra, it's so difficult. It's so difficult. Honestly, I think Washington Spirit is going to win, but that's more of a gut feeling I have, because honestly, I could see this one going either way. I have a few other predictions for this match. I know you talked about player rotation, and both of these teams in the Challenge Cup semifinal had to deal with different things. Washington having to go to sudden death penalties, which is a big mental toll. It's exhausting to do that mentally and emotionally. And North Carolina, although they had an early lead, and they end up winning 2-1 against Kansas City, they had to play in really tough downpour conditions. So their bodies are still recovering. That's mentally exhausting as well, to be able to play through a torrential downpour. Looking at starting lineups and rotations that way, last match for Washington against OL Reign in the Challenge Cup semifinal, we saw Chris Ward rotate a little bit his midfield, pushing Ashley Sanchez higher up the pitch to be a forward alongside Hatch and Rodman. I don't foresee that happening in this match against North Carolina. I see him putting Sanchez back in the midfield so she can try to disrupt Dabinia and Caroline's play between each other. It's so much about what the opponent is going to do. And with Sean Nahas and his box midfield that North Carolina rolls out, he needs a player like Ashley Sanchez in there to pick off passes, to read the play, and do all of those types of things. At this point, we don't know about Andy Sullivan. I don't foresee her playing, though. I think Kelly O'Hara looked really good. If she can stay healthy, get rest over these next 2 days, we'll see her start for Washington Spirit. And Emily Sonnet in the back line, Sam Staub. They have a lot of good picks defensively. And Aubrey Kingsbury, I bet she's still flying high after that Challenge Cup semifinal win. But I see Sanchez sitting back in the midfield a lot more in this match. Dabinia for North Carolina Courage. She has scored in 5 straight Challenge Cup matches. I bet she gets another one. She's going to go for 6 straight, take her record and up it one more. She had a penalty kick that she could have put away the last time these two teams faced in the Challenge Cup, and it was saved by Aubrey Kingsbury. I think Dabinia wants another one on Kingsbury. So that's why I believe that Dabinia will get a goal. But ultimately, I have Washington taking this one. It's their second straight championship that they head to as a team, and essentially the same team that they took to the 2021 NWSL Championship that they ended up winning. They now have those rings. They have a tangible reminder of how hard they fought, how much they wanted that win, and how they were able to do it as a whole team unit. I think we're seeing a lot of different diversity in what Washington Spirit can do. It's going to be a really tough task for Ashley Sanchez to be in that midfield and break up the Dabinia Caroline midfield play. And also Ashley Hatch. Chris Ward is going to ask a lot of her to get touches on the ball. She did not touch the ball nearly enough against OL Reign. She was hidden behind defenders. They did a really good job of preventing the ball into Hatch. But if she can just get one touch on it, a feed up and into her, that then she can lay it off to Anna Helferty, Sanchez, or Rodman, it's going to make the difference for Washington. But I have Washington ultimately becoming the Challenge Cup champions in this one. Sandra, who do you have? What predictions do you see coming true? Any personnel rotation you want to see from either side?
Listen, I picked against OL Reign in the semifinal, but I had OL Reign picked in our Challenge Cup overall preview to win the Challenge Cup. And I'm looking at these two teams now, and I've been going back and forth. I knew we were going to hop on this podcast and record this preview and say, we're going to have to do picks. And I was going back and forth and back and forth. And I thought for a second, even toying with the idea about the potential for penalty kicks. And I've been very impressed with sort of the evolution and the growth of this spirit side through the Challenge Cup. It just sort of has felt like they've gotten a little bit stronger as the Challenge Cup has gone on for them. And I think that they're going to maybe come out in this game with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder because of how they advanced to this Challenge Cup. There was some controversy, quite frankly, towards the end of that semifinal against the Reign with the no call, the handle going to penalty kicks, and then not just penalty kicks, but sudden death penalty kicks. It was high drama for sure. But I'm taking things into consideration like the player rotation aspect, depth, bench depth, the quick turnaround, and something else that I'm taking a look at that I probably maybe shouldn't tip my hat one way or the other. But I'm looking at the fact that this is going to be held at Wake Med Soccer Park in
Yeah.
North Carolina. And I got to say, after taking a look at some of the previous performances, I'm going to be going with North Carolina Courage in this one. I think that there is enough there. There's enough footage to have. There's enough tape on both sides of the pitch to go back and filter through and say, here's where we need to make an adjustment. Here's what we need to do. I think both of the games that they faced off against the Washington Spirit were wildly different games. I think they had two attempts, two times where they had a 2-2 draw, but that first match, it was a game that they allowed the Spirit back into and ultimately closed out with that 2-2 draw. And this second match was a little more end to end. We saw a little bit different action happening between these two sides. And that second match in particular, it was one of those games in which the Courage sort of found themselves having to kind of grind out a result. And I'm not too sure if we had a match from the Courage side during their Challenge Cup group play where they kind of showed a little bit of that gritty grinder mentality where sometimes you have to just sort of get a little bit, just sort of slog it out, even if it is just to walk away with a result. Now, in terms of the depth, in terms of the bench on these teams, we're recording this preview and we don't have availability reports at this time. They're not, in the inboxes for us to sort of see who is or who is not available. But I'm also looking at that as well in terms of going from the semifinal to now this final. We saw Washington Spirit side with some questionable things there, and the Courage side also, where maybe there had some players listed as out, but now they're sort of bumped up to questionable. I'm looking to see if maybe somebody like a Carson Pickett is going to be more readily available for this type of match. I think she's a phenomenal player for them. She absolutely breaks a different level when she's out on the flanks for them. But I'm also equally impressed with their rookies as well. They're young players. We're talking about a Diana Ordonez who gave them that go-ahead goal in the semifinal, getting tasked with the start in this one. But you mentioned as well, Leah Berkeley going and getting a goal in this previous match between the two teams in their East group play. So I'm looking for what is essentially going to be perhaps a home field boost for this team, and maybe that they sort of ride that and kind of potentially use that as a bit of an X factor for themselves, because I mostly am of the belief that these two teams are pretty they match up with each other very well. I don't know if I would say that they're evenly matched, but I do believe that what we're going to see in the Cup final are two teams that have familiarity with each other, and there's going to maybe be a lot of cancellation out on the pitch in that aspect. So I'm a little nervous that maybe this game could come down to penalties, but my hope is that it gets taken care of in regulation and that it's going to be the North Carolina Courage lifting the cup.
I don't see it going to penalties just because Washington just did that against OL Reign, and they could have put it away during the match. So I don't think so. I think Washington wants to end this in regulation. They have 90 full minutes to get the job done. But I like it. I like that you're taking the home side. I think playing at Wake Med Soccer Park is a huge advantage for North Carolina to have their fans there. I know that people are excited to have those tickets and to be able to go to this Challenge Cup final. We even got some comments on our YouTube page of people that listen into Attacking Third saying, hey, we can't be there for the pregame show. We can't be there for the Challenge Cup live recap because I'm going to the game. So I'm super happy for those fans because that's huge. Like, that's awesome. As a fan, you've watched your team play on the road, and now you get to go to a cup final at home for North Carolina and up against a Washington Spirit team that, you're exactly right, they could cancel each other out in a lot of different facets all over the pitch. It's going to be a game of momentum and a game of moments in these moments of greatness. Which players are going to step up? We know Dabinia is going to have a number of those moments. Yep. Caroline is going to have those moments. Carson Pickett going to have some of those moments. But I also believe Ashley Sanchez, Trinity Rodman, they're going to have those moments. Yeah. Aubrey Bledsoe is going to have those moments of greatness. I'm truly so excited for this match. You've got North Carolina. I've got Washington. We'll see on Saturday how it all boils down.
We'll see. North Carolina Courage taking on Washington Spirit Saturday, May 7th, 1 p.m. Eastern time on CBS. You love to see it. You love to hear it. We're going to be keeping an eye on it. Don't forget to tune in to our pregame and postgame live with Lori Lindsey. We're going to be on YouTube taking care of all of the action for you and all the buildup. But we've got more picks to make as we do a regular season preview for you all. And we're going to do that right after a quick break.
This is your captain. Our mission, to seek out new life. Push the boundaries of what is known and what is possible.
I'm standing on the surface of a comet.
No one can know the future. One can only follow one's instincts.
This crew can do anything.
Let's show them what you got.
NWSL regular season action continues. Week 2 for the regular season already. We've got some adjustments that were made in light of the Challenge Cup semifinals being completed. That now means that North Carolina versus Portland Thorns, which was originally scheduled for Saturday, May 7th at 7 p.m., will be rescheduled to August 24th at 7 p.m. at Wake Met Soccer Park. And Chicago Red Stars versus Washington Spirit was originally scheduled for Saturday, May 7th as well. That has been moved to June 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern at SeatGeek Stadium. So that means for us here at Attacking Third, we've got 4 games to go through for regular season fixtures. And we're going to give you some picks on each one as these 8 clubs go head to head. Let's start off with San Diego Wave FC versus New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC. This is the lone match on Saturday, May 7th, and it's a late one. West Coast action. It's kicking off at 10 p.m. Eastern. Lisa, when we're taking a look at these 2 teams, who are you picking and why?
So I love that we only have 4. I mean, I'm sad. Of course, I wish there were 6 games, but because there's only 4, it's a little bit more consumable for me as a fan and as an analyst breaking down all of these games. But this is a huge match between these 2 sides because San Diego Wave, they get their second test as an expansion side against a Gotham team that has picked up a little bit of momentum in this regular season. They fell flat. Gotham fell flat throughout the Challenge Cup. They're coming off a 3-0 win over Orlando, and they had 3 different goal scorers. Christy Mewis getting a goal in the run of play. Margaret Purse doing what she does best, getting on the backside of defenders, ball in over the top. Great decision-making to stay left side and hit the ball with their left foot towards the far post. But San Diego Wave, they're also coming off of a win. This match is going to be a huge test. The fact that it is at home for San Diego gives the Wave an advantage for sure. They have their home fans on their side. This is the first regular season home match for San Diego. And if it is even 1/10 of what the home match was, the opening home match for Angel City, it's going to be electric for San Diego. And I know that San Diego Wave fans are going to show up for their team. This is a tough one for me to pick off the bat because I think Gotham is in this to win this. They have wiped the slate clean of Challenge Cup and what they couldn't perform, what they couldn't put together on the pitch. And now going up against a San Diego team, they can prove themselves a lot. I want to say San Diego because I'm going to be honest, I want San Diego to win this one, but I think Gotham's going to come out on top. I do.
Yeah, I was going back and forth a little bit on this one too, and just sort of taking consideration of the regular season matches that they had in week one. This is going to be Gotham on the road, and San Diego has played pretty well in Torreo Stadium, their home facility, and they've been doing okay. They've made it at the very least a tough place to play in a short span of time. And they're coming off of a win against Houston, but this was a game against the Houston Dash side that just have been having their own struggles on the pitch. And unfortunately, that has now turned into some things off of the pitch as well. So getting a win off of this Houston Dash side, a team that is currently struggling with things, but having this goal come in the 86th minute of the game. Took a long time for them to get this win. And then you have Gotham, yes, coming away with a 3-0 win over Orlando Pride, but we're looking at Orlando Pride as a team that's also going through their own things with a new head coach and going through the process of a rebuild and integrating a ton of new faces into a system that is sort of still finding its identity. So I'm almost sort of feeling like this is week 2. Both of these teams have a regular season match under their belt, but this is still very, very early. I think they're still going to be trying to figure out some things out on the pitch. And even though Gotham is the team on the road in this one, I'm feeling the same way about this one, Lisa. I think Gotham is going to come into Torreo Stadium and make a little bit of noise. I don't know if we're going to get a big 3-0 win or even something narrow like a 1-0 win that San Diego had against Houston, but I hope it's entertaining, and I think it's going to tip the way of Gotham as they sort of wipe the slate clean and look ahead to delivering results in the regular season. Let's move on to the next match. We've got a triple header for May 8th, Sunday. It's going to kick off with Kansas City versus Houston Dash at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Kansas City hosting this one at Children's Mercy Park. Kansas City coming off of a 3-0 loss to Portland, and Houston coming off that 1-0 loss to San Diego. Lisa, when you're looking at these two teams going head to head, who are you picking in this one and why?
So we've seen Kansas City and Houston play each other. They faced off throughout the Challenge Cup. They played 3 times throughout the Challenge Cup, which was a lot, but you have to take a look at their regular season matches that they're coming off of. Kansas City went into Portland and they got pummeled 3-0 against Portland in that match. And Houston, they played at home against San Diego Wave. And we just talked about it. It was a late game winner from Jody Taylor that was able to lift San Diego over Houston. So when we look at the Challenge Cup rematches that these two teams played against each other, most recently they played in the group stage, and Kansas City won against Houston. That was 2-1. And then the very last time that these two teams played in the Challenge Cup, it was Kansas City winning 3-0 in that one. So Kansas City got the upper hand over Houston in both of those Challenge Cup matches, one of them being a shutout, but things are a little different now. Houston is traveling to Children's Mercy Park. Kansas City, they've had a week after that Portland loss to regroup and say, okay, we're facing outside competition outside of our little bubble of a central region. What do we need to do to regroup? And that's find more consistency in what kind of identity Kansas City is going to be. Are they going to attack a lot down the flank? Are they going to possess a little bit more? Are they going to drive centrally? And in the Challenge Cup match that Kansas City just played in the semifinal, we saw so much more confidence in the diversity of their attack. They were able to hold the ball when they needed to, slow down play, really dictate the tempo, but also push, find Kristen Hamilton in the attack. We saw Haley Mace come into that semifinal match for Kansas City as well in the second half. Coming back from a bit of an injury is Mace, so I'm hoping she'll get more time against Houston. But ultimately, I have Kansas City getting the upper hand over Houston for the 3rd time this season, and Kansas City coming away with the win at home.
I'm with you, Lisa. I think there's a trend here that we're going to be doing. We're going to be making this similar picks. I think at least for these first two. I'm also going with Kansas City in this one. I just didn't see enough from Houston Dash in that regular season opener, their home opener against San Diego. It's, if anything, this is a team that we talked about during the Challenge Cup where we were left with more questions than answers. And I think after that week 1 loss in the regular season against San Diego, I have even more. And I it's unfortunate because you look across that roster and you can look and point out these pieces of individual talent that they have along the roster. When you can go through each line and point out a couple, whether it's somebody like a Daly or a Nichelle Prince or a Maria Sanchez in their attack, or in their back line with somebody like a Katie Naughton being able to be this sort of confident and calm kind of presence in the center back role. But it's not coming together for whatever reason on the pitch. And I think for Kansas City, we've sort of seen the opposite of that. We've seen this team already begin to take those steps in terms of trying to solidify who they are trying to be in 2022. And I think coming off of that big loss against Portland in the regular season, coming back home to Children's Mercy Park to have the home opener for their regular season, they do not want to disappoint. I think they want to get back to the soccer and to the identity they were trying to establish in terms of becoming a team that is going to be tough to play against this year in 2022. I also have them picking up a win in this one. I don't know if it's going to be a big blowout, which we saw them do against the Dash in the Challenge Cup, because I think the Houston will also be coming in with a little bit to prove as well. But I think it might be a little more narrow, but I think that Kansas City is going to walk away with the win in this one as well. Let's take a look at the other match that is taking place. OL Reign versus Racing Louisville FC. This one is going to be kicking off at 6 p.m. Eastern. So we've got about an hour's difference between these two matches. OL Reign, oh my goodness. Lisa, we got to talk about both of these teams, quite frankly, but setting the stage a little bit for this one, coming off of a tough semifinal result in the Challenge Cup against Washington Spirit, going to make the return to Lumen Field, coming off of the tough result that ended in penalty kicks, and a 2-1 loss in the regular season opener to Washington Spirit as well. So a couple of tough things, I think, on the mental side of things that they're going to have to quickly try to get over. And if I'm Racing Louisville on the road in this one, going into Lumen Field, having to go up against an OL Reign side that is coming off of some tough results, it might be a little, they might be facing a little bit of a tempered OL Reign side for sure. I have to believe that this one could have some fireworks in it on the Reign side of the pitch. Lisa, when you're looking at these two teams, are you swinging one way or the other? We've yet to pick a draw in any of these matches. We may or may not, but who are you looking at in this one and why?
I don't see OL Reign Racing Louisville ending in a draw. I have OL Reign taking the win in this one. As you mentioned, there's so many emotions coming into this match for Racing Louisville. They're coming off 2 back-to-back losses against Washington Spirit, one of them in the Challenge Cup semifinal, going to penalty kicks. Jess Fishlock ultimately is the one that got her last penalty kick saved. That was the last domino to fall in that match, giving Washington Spirit that win. But Jess Fishlock also suffered a bit of an injury during that semifinal game, a bit of a calf injury. She didn't get taken off. She continued to play through it. I'm curious to see if she will play in this match against Racing Louisville. As a competitor, I know Fishlock wants to do that, but is it the smartest for her to continue to play through an injury so early on in the regular season? Probably not. However, Laura Harvey is pissed after that loss. I think Rose Lavelle is upset. I mean, the entirety of OL Reign is not happy with how the Challenge Cup semifinal ended. The fact that they didn't make it to the final, they are going to take it out on Racing Louisville. And Racing Louisville, I don't think they should be scared, but it's got to be a bit intimidating going into Lumen Field, going up against a team that is coming off back-to-back losses and are just fired up to get a win. I could see this being a complete shootout in the terms that Racing Louisville is looking to go to goal. They're going to be opened up and exposed because they're going to look to stretch. Emily Fox is going to have a lot to deal with in terms of OL Reign attack. But ultimately, I have OL Reign winning this one against Racing Louisville, and at home, Laura Harvey's side is going to take the win.
To be frank and to be fair, I don't think, considering the buildup to this week 2 in the regular season for the Reign, I don't think it would really matter who was going into Lumen Field. It just happens to be that it's going to be Racing Louisville in this one. The personnel available for All Rain ahead of their Challenge Cup semifinal. We saw the update there last minute with the addition of Quinn and their status being upgraded to out. And even without a player of that caliber, looking at what the Reign were trying to produce in the semifinal, just sort of even that final 15-minute stretch, just really seeing like, okay, this is the Reign. They could just turn it on at any moment of the game. And I think knowing that this team is capable of that, we're probably going to continue to see that in this regular season match. I'm also going with All Rain to take the victory in this one. Not too sure again if I'm going high in terms of a scoreline or a low scoreline. I don't know if I'm deeply committed to that, quite frankly. I'm just eager to sort of see how they come out in response to these last couple of games that they've got under their belt, quite frankly. I'm curious to see who is going to be available in addition to Racing Louisville, who have had a little bit less games in between, right? Versus a team like the Reign. Jessica Fishlock will look like to be playing through some things in that semifinal, and we'll see if there's any added minutes for somebody like a Megan Rapinoe, who ultimately made her NWSL debut in 2022, coming in very late into that Challenge Cup semifinal. So we'll see. I think I'm excited to see who is available and who gets a crack at this week 2, and I think making a return to Lumen Fields after having to be away on the road for Challenge Cup, I think is a welcomed added element for this club. There's no place like home, right? So I think that the Reign are going to take this one as well. Last one for the episode, we've got Angel City versus Orlando Pride. That is going to close out the triple header for Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern time for the kickoff. Angel City going to host this one again at Bank of California Stadium, coming off of a huge electric win against North Carolina Courage, defeating the Courage 2-1 in their first ever regular season victory. And you've got Orlando Pride coming off of that 3-0 loss to Gotham. When we're looking at these two teams, Lisa, who are you looking at and why? Are we going for the same team again in this one? Tell me who you got.
I hope we're not, but we might be. Angel City FC. I think they're going to win this one. So who do you have before we dive into this?
I'm also looking at Angel City in this one. But
I love it. It's almost a year doing the podcast and we're just clicking on all cylinders right now. Angel City, they're coming off of just such an electric home opener against North Carolina. And because of that, I think they're going to carry this momentum into it. It's their second home game. We saw a lot of positive things from Angel City throughout the Challenge Cup, and it carried over into that opening regular season game about how Angel City can keep the ball. They can possess. They can play really quick 1-2 touches. They can dribble themselves out of pressure, and a number of players on the pitch, not just Kristen Press or Savannah McCaskill, but a lot of different players can find themselves in trouble and be able to problem solve and get out of that. Their off-ball movement has been tremendous. Constantly, the 3-4 players in closest degree to the ball are moving, looking to get into open space, scanning the field, trying to find that next pass, which allows for such a greater rate of possession out of a team like Angel City that needs to keep the ball moving. They don't have a deep bench. They can't be running all over the pitch. They have to let the ball do the work. And we've seen that. This will be a test for them against Orlando Pride. They're coming off of a tough 3-0 loss to Gotham. And Orlando is a team that's struggling, but they have good pieces and they have players that can disrupt teams and cause trouble for opponents. I'm looking at Gunny Jonsdottir. I even think Erica Timrack has provided a lot for Orlando Pride. Orlando now has Erin McLeod back in net, the goalkeeper, after she suffered a bit of an injury during the Challenge Cup. So Erin McLeod will play really well, and she's going to keep her eye on Kristen Press this entire match. But ultimately, Angel City is just putting the pieces together slowly. They're picking up speed and momentum, and that's because they're staying at home, Bank of California Stadium. They have have their fans. This momentum from last week is going to roll over into this week, and I see Angel City taking the win in this one.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I think, quite frankly, kind of a depleted bench or lack of depth on the rosters in this one might be the thing that kind of cancels each other out. I think you're going to have an Angel City side, the expansion side in this one, try to get on the board early and try to dictate tempo from the jump versus a Pride team that has had some injury blows really early on into their season, coupled with a ton of new faces that are still getting, adapted to NWSL transitional type of play. Yes, it's a plus that Era McLeod is back in net for this team. It's a plus having the experience of somebody like a Gunny Johnsdaughter. And this is a team that showed us during the Challenge Cup that they can maybe navigate their ways through a little bit of a physical, choppy type of game and maybe scrap out a little bit of a result, or even just make it a difficult day, quite frankly, if you're the opposition. But I just think in terms of what it means to get a win in soccer, and that means getting the ball in the back of the net, I think in this game, Angel City has the better of the pieces in this one against an Orlando Pride team that has been struggling to do just that. So that's why I'm going with Angel City in this one. And I cannot believe it. We did 4 matches and we picked all wins and we picked all the same teams, Lisa. So you know what that means. I'm excited to come back on here and see what went wrong.
Exactly. I like that though, because we finally have a taste of what each of these teams can bring, not only against similar competition that we saw throughout the Challenge Cup, but also in the first weekend of the regular season, we got to see different competition. We got to see different sides of a lot of teams that were trying to figure out what worked throughout the Challenge Cup. And now the pieces are coming together. I can't believe it's only the second weekend of the regular season, but we have Challenge Cup Final as well. There's just so much to look forward to. And the fact that we no draws and we have all the same picks. Yeah, I'll see you on Sunday night. We'll see what happened.
We will see what happens. Gosh, it's been quite the week so far, and we are not done. Here is your reminder once more that we're going to have a live pregame show May 7th, 12:30 to 1 p.m. before the Challenge Cup Final with Lori Lindsey. Make sure you follow us at Attacking Third on YouTube. Visit youtube.com/Attacking Third so that you do not miss a single second of our pregame show. We want to thank you all so much for joining us and listening along to Attacking Third in this supersized preview. You can follow us on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram at Attacking Third. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and wherever you listen to your podcast shows. We're also available as videos. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Visit youtube.com/Attacking Third. And if you have questions for us, you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts with your question, and we'll answer it during a mailbag segment. We'll be back on Saturday for our Challenge Cup Final live pregame show on youtube.com/Attacking Third. For Sandra Herrera and Lisa Roman, this was Attacking Third.